Hi everyone, Seamus here yet again. Now, I'm recording this video on November 15th, 2016, and there has been a lot going on in the world since I made my last video. And fortunately, most of this stuff has been negative, but last night, and for the past 2 nights, there was a supermoon lighting up the sky and filling my body with positive energy, amplifying my cells, changing their charge from passive to positive, and overall just rejuvenating my spirit and making me feel completely reborn. I almost feel like I have superpowers in a way, but I'll get into that in a different video altogether. But today, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the spiritual corruption that exists in mankind in general nowadays, and what's feeding into that spiritual corruption. I'll tell you what: poison in our airs, misinformation spread everywhere online. They call it viral for a reason. It really is viral. It's a disease. So there's all sorts of misinformation out there, poisoning people's minds, poisoning people's bodies through the air, through the water. They're poisoning the amount of pollution in our oceans is just quadrupling by the day, okay? And all of our oceans are being destroyed. People treat our oceans like a dumping ground. Like, there's so much water in there, we can just pour as much chemicals, we can pour as much sewage into the ocean as possible, and nobody will ever know the distance. And what the best part is, we'll get to line our pockets with as much money as we can save by poisoning the environment. And by the way, I know you know who won the presidential election, right? Donald Trump. And I'm no fan of Hillary either. I mean, I know they both play on the same team for Satan, but unfortunately, I think that Trump winning was the worst of the two options for many reasons. One reason is because he just flat out denies global warming. He flat out denies that we need to be worried about the environment, which is just completely illogical, completely anti-science, and completely anti just having any intelligence whatsoever, because obviously our air is being polluted, we are poisoning our minds, and what happens is that not only does the pollution get into our lungs, it also gets into our brains, and it speeds up the process of Alzheimer's and makes you overall dumber. It blocks up the sensors within your brain. You know how intelligence is messages being fired off electricity, and that's what moon power helps amplify. But pollution, on the other hand, it dulls that. It makes you dumber. It makes you have less zest for life. It poisons your spiritual essence. And overall, in general, our population, our spiritual essence is completely almost void. Alright, that's why I've been saying we need to harness moon power. That's why I was out all night the other night, harnessing that energy that came from the supermoon, which is biggest moon in 80 years and will be the biggest for another 20. And also, there will be another supermoon next month on December 14th, so you can look forward to that, and don't forget that. But back to the spiritual crisis that our country at least is going through. We are so negative. We are always focusing on what's different from each other, never realizing that we all occupy the same consciousness, the collective consciousness, which we should be striving to strengthen. Instead, we are filling ourselves with negative energies. We are indulging our senses with hate. And like I spoke about in my other video, these negative influences poison the soul. And what ends up happening is that your body becomes starved of that positive energy, and as a last resort, you resort to things like stealing, like rape, like murder. All these crimes that result from being deprived of positive energy, that can all be traced back to the structure that we have in power right now, because all of the influences we see from the media, all right, the mass media, always inundating us with all these images of advertisements advertising some poison food or some sugary drink that's just going to make us fat and dumb and give us diabetes and make us dependent on the medical system, which is also rigged and also set up to enslave mankind economically and also physically, because they are constantly working to make us unhealthy. The reason why the obesity rate is so big is because they don't care about enacting any sort of... they don't care about regulating this stuff. The FDA is in the pocket of all of these food manufacturers, and just watch Food Inc. All right, I'm not just a crazy man spouting off this information. It's documented in one of the greatest documentaries of all time, Food Inc., which goes into great detail showing how corrupt and immoral these food companies are, like Tyson and all these other companies that basically enslave animals and just treat them like, not even like they're alive, but they don't respect the life essence of animals. Why should anyone respect the life essence of humans? And I respect the life essence of all living creatures on Earth, which is why I'm filled with positive energy, and which is why I have access to special powers that most humans are not capable of achieving, but they are if they would only harness moon power, as I've been telling them to this entire time throughout the whole year. I've been making videos now since at least April of this year, and I, since that time, have gained so much strength and so much positive energy by harnessing moon power, and you can too, but it becomes difficult when there's so many negative influences out there kind of corrupting us. So Donald Trump won the president, and there's people out in the streets protesting this man. And what I say to that is, good for you, but you're going to want to hold back a little bit. You can express how distaste, how much you hate the situation, the fact that he won, which nobody expected, even though I actually did think that he was going to win. Because I'm on Twitter almost constantly, and most people on Twitter that I follow anyway, they're all liberals. They all are these comedians who are pro-social values, pro-civil rights, as everyone should be. But they all thought that they all live in the same, in this bubble, in this echo chamber, if you will, of liberal values, and they didn't see the bigger picture out there. They didn't see that people really hated Hillary, and with good reason. Hillary is scum. She represents the worst of political corruption. She represents everything bad about the establishment, and also she's this really impersonable, no charisma whatsoever, the worst possible candidate they could have picked, honestly. And she has a whole background of being corrupt and being almost a murderer, if you will. And a lot of people do consider her a murderer and think that she should be in jail, as do I, but I also think that Donald Trump should be in jail as well, because he's also corrupt, and he's also a criminal, and he's also had many, many scandals that people, I guess, don't even care about. They just want to believe in something. That people just don't want to use their brains. They want to turn their brains off. This is why there movies like Transformers and all these other crappy, shitty movies, like all these superhero junk, Captain America Civil War, even though Chris Evans is an American hero, it overall was a very brain-numbing movie. Just a bunch of special effects thrown together, and the storyline leaves a lot to be desired. There's no depth to it whatsoever. Like I said, you just turn your brain off, but when you're dealing with politics and world affairs and domestic affairs that influence people's lives on a daily basis, then you can't turn your brain off. You actually have to do research, more research than just clicking on a Facebook clickbait article and reading top 5 reasons Hillary Clinton sucks. So you're going to want to educate yourself. Read a book, people. Don't just stare at the computer screen. Read a freaking book. All right? And eat healthy foods. Fill your brains with positive nutrients. Harness moon power, because you're going to need that added electricity within your body. All of the senses that we have are powered by electricity. Our nervous system operates off of electrical impulses that travel to the brain. So without the proper amplification inside of you, then you're not going to be running at 100% of your total capacity. And overall, I mean, just reading these papers, just today, Trump to take 5th, NYPD feds weigh street closures, security, and traffic when Dawn is in town. Of course, Donald Trump can't sleep in the White House. He's too good. He's better than any other president in his mind. And he needs to sleep in his big tower, in his penthouse suite, in his big tower here. So what? Who does this man is not connected to the everyday people. He doesn't even know. He's a pathological liar, and he knows it. Everyone knows it. He's got he doesn't represent the common people. He doesn't occupy the same plane of consciousness as we do. All right? He is almost inhuman. And so are his ugly children who are spiritually corrupt and should be completely disregarded, but for some reason are in all of his interviews, and people actually care about these turds. So why that is, I'll never know. But let me just read you some of this stuff, because you're gonna see. Look at this negative. Look at this negativity. I mean, they got sand trucks parked outside because they're afraid of a terrorist blowing up the building, and there's all sorts of stuff going on. And this is another newspaper from just today, November 15th, 2016. People are so afraid. They're letting fear rule their lives. I was just thinking on the way to school today, back after 9/11, we were taught not to let the terrorists win. But now, we have definitely let the terrorists win. We are basing our decisions off fear. We are not, instead of being hopeful for the future and wanting to change our course, we are reverting back to our worst instincts. We are letting fear run us. Look at this. Just look at these police officers protecting our king, Donald Trump. I mean, back in the revolutionary times, we fought against the King of England, all right, because we didn't want to pay his taxes. He was all the way over in England. We knew that he didn't represent us, and we didn't want to pay those shit taxes. But now we have basically the same thing. Donald Trump is now our king. He sits up in his ivory tower. Well, not an ivory tower, like a penthouse suite in the heart of the biggest city on earth. And he's got all these cops. Look at all these resources that are being wasted. These police officers could be patrolling the streets, doing kind deeds for people, making their communities better, but instead they're protecting this douchebag with his big multi-million-dollar, possibly billion-dollar building, and on both sides of the street. And look, they've got zip ties on their belts in case they have to arrest a mass amount of people. So what do you have here? We are turning against ourselves. This is what the establishment wants. They want us to hate each other. They want us to be divided among ideological and political specters, when really we should be occupying the same collective consciousness, and only then can we gain enough strength to eventually ascend our consciousness and perception of the universe to that next level. Okay, we're never going to solve our problems if we just revert back to our worst instincts and just go say, oh, we can't just throw our hands in the air and become cynics and say that our problems will never be solved. We have to fight. We have to get out there. We have to make our voices heard, like I'm making my voice heard right now. Okay? And look at this. I mean, this picture is just spiritually exhausting. This just makes my soul hurt. It's such a negative image of all these police officers lined up in preparation to arrest a bunch of people just for expressing themselves because they are rightfully angry about this douchebag Donald Trump winning, when he should have never even been considered a good candidate in the first place. And now he's filling his office with complete douchebags like this, Bannon, who is a Breitbart. He looks more like a bright fart, okay? Looks like someone just farted in his face. He's so ugly. But that doesn't really matter. What matters is what's inside his soul. And what's inside his soul is hate. What's inside his soul is bigotry. He is a divider. He has nothing in mind except to divide the nation and to empower himself. He dwells off negative energy. He feeds his senses with negative essence. And watch my other video about those people. He's probably I'm not even gonna say what I'm thinking there, because these people are litigious. And these people, if they don't get their way, if people criticize them as they should be criticized, then they will be sued. They probably will sue, even though they are bending the rules themselves. They think they're above the law. They think that they're above everyone else, which brings me back to my other point. These people think that they are ascended, but they are not. They are actually worse than the rest of us who gain our strength through positive energy, because they gain their strength through negativity and stealing the essence of everyone else. So, and then you also had the whole controversy with this dipshit right here, Giuliani, who obviously knew, who probably orchestrated the coup against Clinton in regards to Comey, the FBI king, the FBI director who threw a grenade into the election at the last minute, and basically threw Clinton off her game, and basically reminded everyone about these trumped up email, about this conspiracy theory regarding her emails. And it's just like, why are you, why do people trust you when you've obviously had pre-knowledge about that? That's called insider trading in the investment banking world. You had insider knowledge about the FBI, one of the most trusted organizations in our federal system. So what does that say about you? What does that say about the FBI's credibility? And what does that say about our political system where that is allowed to happen? And what does that say about our population, that our education is so in shambles that people don't use their brains and have critical thinking skills? When I'll tell you why that is, because we are being drained of essence every single day. Every single advertisement we see begging us to need something else, when everything that we need is inside ourselves. We instead try to gain energy by indulging in different outside influences, such as we feel the need to be have very shallow attention. We feel the need that we need to have our worth. What's the word I'm looking for? We need to we gain our sense of self-worth from other people's interpretations of us, basically. So it's very shallow when we should be looking in ourselves and gaining that positive energy in ourselves and have a positive self-image. Instead, we look to other people and say, "Oh, do they think I'm attractive? Maybe I need to be something else to appease this other person, or maybe I need to think a different way in order to impress someone." When really, it's all within ourselves to feel great, and a little bit of help from the moon doesn't hurt, because the moon power, it amplifies the electrical charge in our cells, which in turn speeds up the nervous system and makes our brain go into overdrive, and will eventually allow us to break through the plane of consciousness that we are currently trapped in and expand our perceptions of the universe to a point where we will shed our physical bodies and our spirits will basically travel at the speed of light through the universe, because we will no longer be confined to the physical boundaries that we set for ourselves by not harnessing moon power. And I can't even dwell too much into it. There's so much negativity going on. As I said, we are divided as a people. As a people, we are divided. People are becoming more likely to be racist. And look at this. Look at this. It's a crime statistic from Chicago compared to New York. Chicago's crime rate is through the roof. And it's just sad, because in today's day and age, we are so advanced as a species. We have, at our fingertips, we have so much intelligence, so many facts, but we cannot utilize it because we're constantly being influenced by misinformation, which exists on the internet, on the radio, and on the TV. And we can't distinguish truth from reality anymore, and that's nobody's fault but the elites, because they don't want us to know the truth. They don't want us to be one big community. They don't want us to occupy the same consciousness, which we do, but they don't want us to know that and realize that. Otherwise, we will gain so much power that we will no longer be dependent on them. So what they do is they fill our airs with poisonous carcinogens, and they fill our oceans with pollution and dumping waste, and all of our waste that we produce by consuming all sorts of garbage being sold to us by these elites, which we don't even need, but we feed our souls with because we're so deprived of any sort of positive reinforcement in our lives. So instead of finding the positivity and strength within ourselves, we look to outside influences which are sold to us by these elites in order to enslave us further. So we're caught in this vicious cycle which is being perpetuated by the mass media, by advertisers, by big corporations, by small businesses even, by people who do not respect human consciousness. People who do not respect the fact that we need to evolve as a human race in order to survive. Alright? We cannot ensure a future for our future generations if we do not strive to be better, strive to change our world in a positive way. So as you can tell, the whole state of the world right now is really, it's really getting to me, and I cannot express how frustrated I am in certain ways that things are the way they are, because you really do expect more from people. You really wish that people would have bigger hearts. You really wish that people wouldn't be so selfish, but we are intrinsically, psychologically inclined to be, to think of ourselves first and our immediate family. So I'm not sure how to break that boundary, how to educate people that in order to ascend, in order to reach that higher plane of existence that we all strive for, which we are always trying to achieve by doing drugs, by becoming stronger economically, by bringing other people down even, is how some people gain their strength. If we would just harness the power of the moon, the stars, if we would only look within ourselves and see the positivity and harness our own positive energy, then we could achieve great things, we could achieve anything, but there will always be certain individuals, certain groups out there who are interested in taking advantage of everyone else. And what I think needs to happen is they need to be called out, they need to be exposed for the pieces of trash that they are. They need to be excommunicated from the human race. So overall, people are feeling very depressed. People are feeling very down on both sides, not only on the losing side, not only liberals who are hoping to take our country in a more progressive direction, but also the people on the other side who are interested in regressing, going back to the old style of the way America used to be, which is basically racism. All right, let me put it this way: where did America come from? We stole it from the Native Americans, and then we genocided them. We put the rest of them in reservations where they're still suffering to this day. They have out of control alcoholism on those reservations, and nobody cares. So, and then throughout even our most recent history, other groups have been completely dehumanized. The African American community, Asian American communities, for a short time, were completely hated because of the whole auto industry collapse, which was blamed on Japanese people. So we are basically, but when Obama was elected, we all thought, well, we didn't really think, but we thought it was a big step. But that step, whatever step it was, we are now taking a step back. So that's something that is upsetting a lot of people, and there's a lot of rage in people's hearts, and people on the other side are upset that the people on the other side are calling them names, the whole deplorable thing. And overall, we are just spiritually, our spiritual essence of our nation is just in the gutter right now, which is why it was so important for us to harness the energy of the supermoon. And I really thought that the supermoon would kind of evolve our senses. The supermoon would bring us to a higher level, even for a short time, would relieve us, would cleanse us of all these impurities in our brains. But unfortunately, there is such an overwhelmingly negative aura in the air that I'm not sure that will be relieved anytime soon, which is unfortunate. And people say 2016 is not a great year. Let's just put it like that. But I'm not going to dwell on that, Because even in the last, like, month and a half we have left in 2016, we still have the potential to make it the best year ever. So, that opportunity is not off the table, people. We can still achieve greatness. Like I said, December 14th is coming up. We need to harness that energy. We need to get on track, and we need to expand our consciousness, and only then will we escape these earthly inhibitions that we have, these negative energies that haunt us, that poison us, that really injure and denigrate our spirits. So, basically, I just wanted to set everything up before I get into the nitty-gritty of this video. I just wanted to set up the time period that we're in and why this person, who I'm going to expose right now, decided to treat me in such a way. Now, before I get into it, I want to say that I do not hate this person. I don't even dislike this person. I don't have any negative feelings about her whatsoever. But I feel like I need to expose her behavior and tell the world about it, just because I'm hoping that other people will learn from her mistakes, and hopefully she will eventually learn from hers. So, without further ado, let me get to the bottom of what this video is about. And if you follow me on Twitter, at Seamus McKenz, and by the way, some of my other videos earlier are a little outdated. I changed my name to Seamus McKenz. I'm going to try to get it back to Seamus McKenzie, but every time I try, it says that someone else has that username, because my other account, I had to delete for reasons that I won't get into here. But let's just say certain parties tried to sabotage me. So I'm not going to get into all that here, but I will say that if you follow me on at Seamus McKenz, then you'll know this story, which I shared right after it happened yesterday morning. And then I have a follow-up. I've had a follow-up for this morning too, which they don't know about yet. But let me start from the very, very beginning. So I work overnights, all right? And in the morning, on my way home, there is a convenience store, a Wawa. And everyone around loves Wawa. They're better than Quick Check. They're better than 7-Eleven, what have you. They are, in terms of convenience stores, they are of a higher caliber. It's a Pennsylvania-based company. They have great dairy products, ice cream, milk, chocolate milk, I get all the time. They make great sandwiches, hoagies, better than Quick Check, which is total crap. They have better bread, they have better ingredients, and just overall better quality, and it looks cleaner than a Quick Check would look like. So I go there almost every morning, and I love it. And I see the same people all the time. I'm not exactly friendly. I am friendly. I say hello, how are you, and it's just like, okay. And then, but it's a quick transaction, so I don't interact with the cashiers too often. But I do see the same people there all the time, and I'm sure they know me. I'm sure they know my face, and I thought that they respected me as a customer, as someone who goes there all the time, who obviously likes the service that I get there. Otherwise, I wouldn't go there. I'd choose somewhere else. So it was my impression that if not respected, then at least I deserve to be treated like everyone else, like a customer, like, I don't know, human being, with positive energy, with positivity, and with goodness in the heart, which is how I treat everyone. I'm not going out and scolding people and yelling at people for trying to do something nice like was done to me. So, let me just get this out before I get into the nitty-gritty of it. Basically, I get my items. I order my sandwich on the touchpad. The thing prints out. I go and grab candy. I go and grab chocolate milk. And then I go up to the register. Now there's two open registers. One woman and then the other woman. And there's nobody there at the time. They're just kind of chatting with one another. So I go up to the woman on the right-hand side. And this is an older woman who I've seen there before, who I think might be some kind of a manager or something like that. But I went up to her because she was a little closer to the door, and I put my things on the table, and as she's ringing me up, I look over, and on the other side of me, the automated change dispenser, and of course there was nobody on the other side, so there was a little bit of change in the tray. There's a little bit of change left over, which the other person obviously forgot to pick up, and it was obvious that that was the case because there was nobody there, and there was nobody there even when I even looked over and walked over, there was nobody there, so the other person who left the change there had been gone for a while. And by the way, there was only about 35 cents in there, maybe a little bit more, but it wasn't any, there was only like 1 quarter, 2 dimes, and like a couple pennies. So it was not a significant amount whatsoever, but even so, I looked over to the change dispenser and I saw there was a little bit of change in there. And then I looked to the other side and I saw that there was a donation box which said it would help children with cancer. So I said to myself, you know, the next person that gets change is just going to think that that change is theirs and take it, or something else will happen. Someone undeserving will take that change. So since I'm a positive, I'm always trying to do a good deed. I'm always trying to help humanity out in any way that I can. So I say, you know, who would it be hurting if I just took that change and I just put it in the donation bin, right? I mean, I didn't have any bad intentions. It was all good-hearted intentions. So I decided to do just that. I mean, I'm just a regular guy. I go there every day, and they know, this woman knows my face. She knows me, and I was positive that it would be treated like a good deed. Boy, was I wrong. Basically, I did just that. I reached over to the change. I started to pick it up. And immediately, the woman behind the counter, who was this old woman who's like 80 years old or something like that, who's like somebody's mean old grandma, she says, "What are you doing?" This is what her face actually looked like. She's like, "What are you doing? That's not your change." And I immediately drop. I'm like, I'm sorry. Because I was not trying to steal that change, and I did not want to be yelled at the first thing in the morning, so it immediately took me off guard. I was not expecting to be scolded and basically humiliated and almost dehumanized by this woman behind the counter, the checkout counter. So I immediately dropped the change, and I said, oh, sorry. And she said, "That's not your change." She was like so incredulous, like almost like giving. She's like one of those old nuns. You know those old movies where the nuns have the ruler and they slap you on the hand if you do anything wrong? Well, this was like this lady. She was mean. She treated me like a misbehaving child. When all I was trying to do was do a good deed, a good act, and put extra change into the donation bin. But I'll tell you what the kicker was. So I say, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry." And she said, You paid with credit card. What are you doing taking that change?" And then she pushes past me. She goes like this, and she reaches over the counter. She takes the change in her own hand, and then she reaches over and puts it into the donation bin. All right? And at this point, I say, that's what I was gonna do. All right, because I didn't appreciate having it be assumed that I was going to steal it. I always assume the best of people, and this woman assumed the worst of me. Which didn't even make sense, because I go there every day, and when I go there, I'm wearing my work uniform. It's not like I'm a straggler going in there with my like I'm a beggar or something. And I was just like, "What, lady? Why would you yell at a customer like that?" And I said, I didn't say that, but I said that's what I was gonna do. And I didn't emote too much. I was just like, I pretended like it was no big deal when in reality I wanted to scream and yell, but I have to hold back because I don't want to negatively influence the people around me. I wanted to contain it. Only I was affected by this situation. I didn't want to make a scene, if you will. And plus, I still go there every morning, and I don't want to leave a bad impression, which is pretty much what I already did anyway. But basically, after I say that's what I was gonna do, she says, "Yeah, sure, next." She actually like says next, and I'm like, I haven't even gotten my bag yet. I said, that's what I was gonna do. Yeah, sure, next. She doesn't even give me my bag. I have to reach over the counter and grab my bag. She doesn't even ask me if I wanted a separate bag for my sandwich, which is what they usually do. So she was like mad at me for some reason, even though I was just trying to do the right thing. I was trying to do a good deed. She thought I was lying. So, I mean, why would you assume the worst of people, especially when you see them every morning? And it just really resonated with me because obviously this woman is being influenced by negative forces that I cannot comprehend. And she is, in turn, putting that on me. She is, what do you call it? She's projecting her negativity onto me. She believes that people are intrinsically bad. She believes that I was trying to steal that 35 cents for my own greed, for my own greedy purposes, and she interpreted it as a theft. When in reality, I was just trying to go do a good deed. I wasn't going to take the change and pocket it. And also, it was only like a few cents. It was like the amount of change that people accidentally throw on the ground and then leave because they don't want to bend over and pick it up, because that would be too much energy to waste for a couple cents. But this woman decided to ruin my entire day. Well, it didn't ruin my day, but it had the potential to, because other people might already be having a bad day. And it's like, if somebody is having a bad day and they decide to do a real good act to cheer themselves up, and then this woman yells at you and then scolds you for that act when you're just trying to do the right thing, and she inundates you with negativity and then treats you like a child, like you're nothing, like you have no power whatsoever, like you're a piece of trash. That doesn't feel too good. That really gets to you. That really does. That really affects your spirit. It brings negativity to your day. So I didn't appreciate that whatsoever. So immediately, I mean, I was just flabbergasted at first. And then while I'm driving home, I'm like thinking about it. I'm like, why would that lady yell at me? What is going on in her life? And I just wondered to myself, I wonder if she's being affected by the overall spiritual corruption that is existing in our world today. I wonder if she's being negatively influenced by the media. I wonder if she has something going on in her own family life that is making her hateful, that is making her bitter, that is making her want to lash out at people. She wanted to lash out at me. That's pretty obvious. And by the way, I go to this Wawa a lot, and I've seen this woman yell at someone else. And at the time, I thought that she might have been in the right, even though she was getting way overboard with her end. It was a black guy, he was almost like a teenager or early 20s. And it was late at night, actually, and I went there. I was waiting in line behind him, and he was in an argument with this woman. He was yelling at this woman, saying, it was about something like cigarettes, like he didn't have an ID or something like that, and she was like treating him like a child. Like he even said, like, "You ain't my mama. Why you talking to me like you're my mama? You ain't my mama." And at the time, I thought it was pretty funny, but looking back, it's obvious that this woman has a problem. This woman is very combative. This woman is projecting her negativity onto the customers when customers should be treated with respect and not be treated like children, like they're doing something wrong. All right? I'm in the customer service industry, and in my industry, we treat people with respect even if they do something that you don't like, which in this case wouldn't even apply because I was just trying to do a good deed. You didn't need to jump all over me. You didn't need to assume the worst of me. I'm a good-hearted person, and what she did to me was very negative, was very bad, for the overall state of the spiritual existence of mankind. So, it just goes to show that certain people have something going on in their lives and they need to really reflect on themselves and say, what am I doing wrong? Instead of assigning blame and hating other people because you never know. People might have good intentions like I did, and you just labeled them as some kind of a thief, some kind of a child, and humiliated them in front of everyone there. So, I went to Twitter, I told all of my Twitter followers this story, and I got overwhelming support. Overwhelming support. Phil Braun even said that if Wawa went down south, he would picket on my behalf. So, and then I also got a few retweets as well, and that was really inspiring to me. And again, I don't want to make it seem like I am attacking this woman. I just want to point out the fact that there are so many people out there who are projecting negativity onto the rest of the population when it is not deserved, when it is not, it is not necessary whatsoever, because it contributes to the overall destruction of the spiritual positivity that we should all be indulging in, and instead replaces it with negativity and hate, which is what we are all being inundated with on a daily basis. I don't need to go to the convenience store and expect to be treated a certain way and to be treated a different way based on a misunderstanding. Okay, it was a misunderstanding, which is what it basically was, but this person assumed the worst out of the very simple situation. This person labeled me as a thief. This person labeled me as spiritually corrupt, like I'm trying to steal, when in reality I was trying to do a positive act by contributing to a charitable organization, which I use my own money to do, which I do all the time. I'm very outgoing, I am very community-minded, I do a lot, I'm very charitable. So, when I see an opportunity to be charitable, I jump on that opportunity because that is the type of person I am. But obviously this woman behind the counter, she decided to jump all over me whenever she sees an opportunity to denigrate someone, to make them seem powerless, to build her own self-esteem up at the expense of someone else's. So this other lady needs to really take a hard look at herself in the mirror and just think to herself, who am I? Who is the person I want to be? So, after getting so much support, this morning, I actually went back there. That's right. Me, Seamus, I went back and I confronted this woman about what she did to me. And I have a hidden camera footage of this very exchange, which I will show to you. Now, please understand, I am not sharing this in order to expose, I do want to expose the negative energy that exists in our society, but I'm not doing this to humiliate or embarrass anyone. I just want to let my audience know that this exists, that there is an issue going on in our world today where people just assume the worst. If there's any misunderstandings, then we resort to negativity, we resort to denigrating the other person, and basically that's just really sad, and that really speaks to the overall state of our spirit, of our collective consciousness as it is today after this whole election process, which is just divisive, which is just very negative. And this woman just represents, I feel like, the worst of that, because immediately, even though I was doing a positive thing, she assumed, based on her preconceived notions, which I'm sure were molded by whatever negative influences. Maybe she's a Fox News watcher, I don't know. So she obviously has a very grim view of the world, has a very negative view of the world, and she projected that onto me and made me feel like I was the bad one, made me feel like I was some sort of criminal, and decided to humiliate me and denigrate me and bring me down to build herself up. So I just wanted to show you this video. This is me. I went back to the Wawa. So again, I'm not showing you this video to humiliate or embarrass this woman. I'm just showing, I just want wanted to show you this to you to first of all, verify my story, that I'm not making this up. All right, a lot of people accuse me of making up stories. This is a true story, and this is something that really happened to me and really affected me deeply. So I just wanted to get that out there to prove to the world that this really happened, that this whole issue is a real issue that I'm talking about here, and the issue being the spiritual corruption of the human race. All right? Holy shit, look at this guy. So anyway, let's take a look at the footage. I just want to preemptively state that I was expecting her to apologize. I was expecting her to say, oh, I'm sorry, it must have been a misunderstanding. But instead, she decided not to apologize at all, but act in a passive-aggressive way, and basically kind of implying that I was a brat, implying that I am a nuisance to her, which was very insulting, which really kind of cemented my position that she has something wrong with her spirit. Her soul has been obviously corrupted, and she probably should be fired because she does not represent the Wawa Corporation well. And I've already reached out to Wawa, and they are dealing with the issue right now. So, watch this video and let me know what you think in the comments, and afterwards I will be basically going over my interpretation of what happened with the follow-up. So, take a look at the footage and let me know what you think. Sorry about yesterday. You kind of scolded me for taking the thing, but I was just going to drop it in there too.
Oh, are you? Yeah, but that's somebody else's change, yeah.
Yeah, but then you reached over and did the same thing anyway.
Yeah, because I have to see whose change it is, because a lot of people take the wrong change.
Right. Well, you didn't need to scold me for it, but have a good day. All right, well, there you have it, folks. That was just this morning. I went back to the Wawa, and what do you know? The same cashier was there. The same cashier who was at the other register was there as well, and she sort of chimed in herself. I didn't hear what she said, but she's the other woman there. I've always thought was a bit nicer than the woman who I had the interaction with, but I'm not sure. I didn't interact with her too much. But my interpretation of that is that she blew me off. She did not take me seriously, that it was a real issue, that she defended herself, saying that, oh, I needed to make sure that it was, that whose change it was. Okay, whose change was it? It was the guy before who left without taking it, and had obviously left and had disregarded the change because it was amount that he blew off that he did not think that he needed, so he left it there. And that was the origin of the change. It was just nobody's change. It was nobody's change. It was left in there unattended for who knows how long, and I decided to take it upon myself to use that in a positive way. And as a result, I got berated, I was assumed to be a criminal, and I was humiliated. So, will that stop me from doing the right thing in the future? No. I will not be disheartened by this. I will continue my mission to bring positivity to mankind. This woman, on the other hand, is obviously very stern and basically she's very dismissive of my complaints. She was very mean. She's very mean-spirited and has a very negative spiritual state right now. She basically treated me like a child again. She did not take me seriously. She brushed me off, and I really don't appreciate that. If she had said, "I'm sorry, sir," she doesn't even have to call me sir. She just has to. She has to acknowledge me in some way, in a respectful way. I know that I am a brat to her, but when you're in the service industry, you're supposed to treat customers with respect. All right, and just in general, you're supposed to treat people with respect and not like a piece of trash, like she treated me, and just brush them off and throw them in the garbage. So she decided to say, "Oh, I had to make sure whose change it was. I didn't know. Blah 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 blah. Oh, have a good day." And it's like she did not respect the fact that I was affected by this. She did not respect the fact that I decided to come back the next day. I was so affected by it that I decided to come back the next day and try to get some sort of explanation. At first, I apologized. I said, I'm sorry for the misunderstanding. I'm sorry for trying to grab the change earlier. I was just trying to put it in there. And then she said, you know, I was trying to do, I had to make sure it was change. I needed to, that was not your change, whatever. And I just said, you did the same thing. You did what I was going to do. And she said, oh, blah, I don't even know what she just gave some lame excuse. All right? That's the type of person, she can't explain her actions. She just works off basic instinct, and her instinct is to denigrate. Her instinct is to assume the worst of people, which is how you're not supposed to live your life. And maybe she would be a little more successful in life if she adopted my principles. And my principles are treating people with respect, having a positive attitude, and doing the right thing all the time. And just trying to make the world a better place. And making the world a better place does not entail denigrating people. It doesn't entail demoralizing people. It doesn't entail scolding people. It doesn't entail treating people with disrespect based on a misunderstanding. What happens is you have to assume, especially if you're working behind the cash register and you're dealing with a regular customer, you have to assume the best. You have to treat people with respect, and I was not treated with respect. So this is why I'm sharing this video footage with you. And then she gave me a passive-aggressive, have a nice day. And it's like, okay, you completely disregarded what I said, and now you're acting passive-aggressive. You know, she smiled at me. She doesn't smile at anyone else. And just trust me when I say that was a very passive-aggressive response on her end. So I gave her a passive-aggressive response right before I walked away. I said, well, you didn't have to scold me like that. Which was not exactly passive-aggressive. It was just kind of stating the obvious. She did not have to scold me like a child. So, Wawa, I hope you clean up your act. I will probably be going back there again. Maybe not after that, because that was a very negative experience for me. And when I go to place, I want to have a positive experience. But don't forget to harness the power of the supermoon coming up December 14th, and you're going to see a very exciting video from me. Like I said, I harnessed the power of the supermoon last night and the past 2 nights, and I feel very rejuvenated. I feel very amplified, and I feel very rejuvenated. So please check that out and subscribe. Thank you very much, and have a great day.